This link is for 4th grade, going along with the story, The Life and Times of the Ant. If you go ahead and make sure your Treasures textbook is open to page 762 and 763, this is where we're going to go ahead and begin. First of all, I'd like to go over the vocabulary words that we've encountered in this unit. We have astronomer. An astronomer studies the stars. Investigates. If someone investigates something, he or she finds out about it. Solitary. A solitary creature lives alone. Territory. The territory of an animal is the area in which it lives. Communication. Communication is an exchange of information. Nutrients. Nutrients are vitamins and minerals needed for life. Prehistoric. People in prehistoric times lived before recorded history. Overcome. If you overcome something, you rise above it. Larva. A newly hatched, sometimes worm-like insect. Pupa, an insect that is changing from a larva to an adult. Mandibles, lower jaws, and foragers, those who search for food. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what the genre this week is. It's an informational nonfiction text. And an informational nonfiction text is a detailed composition that sets out to explain something by presenting facts about it. And of course, as we read the story, we are going to fill out our description web. Please remember that description text structure is used when an author wants to organize many details about a subject so that they can be easily understood by the reader. With that being said, go ahead and direct your attention to page 763, The Life and Times of an Ant. It's written and illustrated by Charles Machuti, Masters of the Earth. Ants are one of the world's most important insects. They plow more soil than beetles, eat more bugs than prances, and outnumber many insects by 7 million to 1. Tunneling out of the jungles and forests and into backyards on every continent except Antarctica, ants ramble as if they own the earth. And perhaps they do. Ounce for ounce, an ant is one of the strongest animals on earth. An ant can lift a seed 5 times its weight, while an elephant can lift a log that's only 1/5 of its weight. Now each year, the world's ants dig up more than 16 billion tons of dirt, enough to fill 3 billion dump trucks. Ants are frequently compared with people because they live in social communities and they work together to solve their problems. I'm going to go ahead and stop right there because as I look over the first 2 pages of the selection, I see that the author has organized the text into small sections. Some of the sections have headings or titles. These are easy to see because they are darker or enlarged type. The author also uses illustrations to divide the text into sections. Organizing the description of ant life this way will probably make it easier for us to understand and remember the facts. Now, as I keep reading, I'm going to go ahead and look at the other ways that the author uses headings and illustrations to help organize his description of the life and times of an ant. Great dynasty on Earth. Ants have been digging through the dirt for more than 100 million years. Their dynasty stretches from the time of dinosaurs to today. So 100 million BC years ago. That's when ants were about 65 million BC, and of course today. Friends in low places. There are more than 1 million kinds of insects. Most of them are solitary insects. Their survival depends on only one being, which is themselves. An ant is different. It is a social insect. It cannot survive by itself for long periods of time. Ants need other ants to help build a nest, gather food, and protect themselves from enemies. This need for other ants is not a weakness, but a strength that enables the ants to overcome its small size. Now, when an ant is threatened by a larger insect, it emits a scent called an alarm pheromone, and other ants smell the odor and they rush to help. Okay, now in the second paragraph of Friends in Low Places, what details help describe how ants are different from other insects? In the second paragraph of Friends in Low Places, what details help describe how ants are different from other insects? Well, the author gives details that show how the ants are social insects and they work together to build nests, gather food, and protect against enemies. He points out that the cooperation among the ants as a group makes up for their small size as individuals. Ants talk. Successful teamwork requires effective communication. Ants express themselves by using four senses. Smell. Ants emit pheromones that other ants smell through the antenna. These scents warn of danger, say hello to friends, and inspire fellow ants to work harder. Touch. Ants tap one another with their antennas to announce their discovery of food and to ask for food. Sound. When some ants are trapped in a cave-in, they rub the joints between their waist and abdomen to produce a squeaky sound that the other ants hear through their legs. And taste. Ants exchange food with other ants mouth to mouth. These ant kisses are ways to share nutrients and chemicals that say, "We're family." Now, because it's dark underground, most ants do not rely on sight for communication. In fact, many ants can only see a couple of inches, and some army ants are even blind. Now, with that being said, how does the author go about describing the way the ants communicate? How does the author go about describing how the ants communicate? Well, the author introduces the topic by saying ants communicate well by using four senses. The details include that they use their pheromones or scents, and that their sense of smell is to warn each other, say hello, or inspire each other to work. They touch each other with their antenna to communicate about food. They hear the call for the help that many other ants may be squeaking sounds, and they taste food together and share its nutrients, which is a way to bond as a family. With that being said, we could say here that the topic here is how ants communicate. And with that being said, we go ahead and, of course, the first one is they use scents to smell, warnings and greetings, touch antennae to talk about food. They hear squeaks that are cries for help, and taste food together to bond as a family. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and continue to read. Now, the ant family. Ants live in social groups called colonies. A small colony may contain only 12 ants, while a larger colony overflows with more than 7 million ants. Each colony has three types of ants. There are workers, male ants, and the queen ant. Now, worker ants, most of the colony ants are workers. They are all female, but they do not lay eggs. Although they are the smallest ants, they do all the chores. They clean the nest, gather the food, and defend the colony. When you see an ant dragging a crumb of food, you are looking at a worker ant. Male ants. Now, all male ants have wings and can be seen for only a few weeks in the summer. They mate with the queen, but do not work in the colony. And then, of course, the queen ant. The queen ant lays eggs and is the mother of all the ants. Young queens have wings, but old queens do not. All queens have large abdomens to produce eggs. Some queens lay millions of eggs each year. How an ant colony starts. Now, after a hot summer rain, a young queen takes off on her mating flight, and the queen flies into a cloud of male ants and mates in the air. Afterwards, all the males die, and the queen ant returns to earth. She breaks her wings off by rubbing them on the ground, and then she digs a hole in the soft, moist earth and starts laying her eggs. She will never leave the nest again. During the next 3 months, the eggs develop through 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult ant. And after they have hatched, the first workers assume the duties of the colony. They search for food and protect the queen. As the queen lays more eggs, the workers enlarge the nest. Now, with that being said, How would the author use beginning, middle, and end to summarize the section of how ant colonies start? How would the author use a beginning, middle, and end to summarize how ant colonies start? Well, the beginning of the colony starts with the queen, which mates and then lays her eggs in a hole in the ground. The middle discusses the development of the eggs through the 4 stages. And then, of course, the end of this section is about the workers taking care of the colony. Inside an anthill. Now, most ants build their home underground. Ants dig by scooping dirt with their mandibles or jaws. As they chew the dirt, it mixes in with their saliva to form little bricks. Then they pack the little bricks together to reinforce the tunnel. And finally, the ants carry the excess dirt around outside with their mandibles, and it gradually forms an anthill. Beneath the anthill lays an ant nest. Small nests have only one chamber just an inch below the surface, while large nests have thousands of chambers that may be as deep as 20 feet. Now, all nests provide shelter from the weather and a safe environment for the queen ant to lay more eggs. Now, an anthill absorbs the sun's rays and transfers the heat down to the nest. An anthill can be 10 degrees warmer than the surrounding area. Ants often nest beneath a rock or a log, which protects the nest and traps moisture in the dirt. Ants require moisture so that their bodies do not dry out. And ants dig their nest deep enough to reach damp dirt. As air dries out the nest, they dig new tunnels into the damp earth or the damp dirt. Now, as ants bring up dirt, they recycle nutrients, which help the plants grow. In the daytime, workers move eggs into the upper chambers, which are heated by the sun. The floor of an ant chamber slants down so the water can drain off, and the roof is curved to trap the heat. At night, workers shift eggs to lower chambers because the earth that stored the sun's heat during the day slowly releases the heat at night. Okay, now with that being said, go ahead and look on page 769. What details does the author include when he describes the special structure of an ant's nest? The special structure of an ant's nest. Now, ants build nests beneath rocks or logs because of the protection they provide and because they keep needed moisture in the dirt. Now, each ant chamber has a curved roof to trap heat and downward slanting floors so the water can drain out. To keep eggs warm, the ants move them to the upper chambers during the day and the lower chambers during night, and some chambers are used for food storage. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop this link here, and we will pick back up in part 2.